Hello, assalamu alaikum everyone. Good morning. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. How is it going today? How's everyone doing today? I need to set my things correctly. How's everyone doing today? How are you? How are you? How are you? Let's go. Let's quickly go and see who's here today. Pretty cool. Pretty good. Good. Great stuff. We got Mikal. We got other folks as well. We'll just share this on my share on my wall as well. Boom. There we go. Mikal. We got other folks. Yeah, that wasn't intentional. That was not supposed to happen. All right, everyone. I gave some of you, or some of you were actually really enthusiastic about getting assignments last time, if you remember. So, who has done the assignment? Or is there anyone who has actually done that? I know about one guy. I think Sidben did the assignment. So, I know about him, but I don't know about any of you. I'm gonna make it bright and then I'm gonna bring this down. Yeah, this is much better. Just to shed at least some light on me. Too much? Too low? Better. Cool. It's the first time I'm joined here. That's Mikal. Alright. That sounds good. Maybe I should just go and hide the chat box. How about you folks on Twitch? So I've got a lot of folks joining today actually, which is amazing. The only thing is that I would have to see here and there, but I think I'll manage all the dashboards. Not difficult at all. So we're gonna be talking. So Shazib is asking which assignment in the last session. Some of the kids actually asked about having an assignment, and they said that we want something to do at home before the next stream. I was like, okay, if you want it, then I'm gonna give it to you, and that's what happened. I then gave it to them, and now I'm asking who actually so we're gonna be talking, did that, so we can know what's happening there. Fahad, how is it going today? Are you good? I'm following your channel from 3-4 months, but I missed last few sessions. That's fine, no problem. I know that happens. Absolutely fine. No worries at all. All right. I think we can actually begin. I'm just trying to see all the chat. I don't know why, but in my multi-stream it doesn't show Facebook. I don't know why. That's interesting. Can you put all of your videos in the sequence on YouTube? I might be able to do that, but we'll see when that happens. It's not really easy to do so, so I'm not really comfortable with doing that right now. But the good news is our channel now has an editor. So I've got a hold of a guy who is essentially an editor, a video editor, and now we're gonna be looking into some cool stuff using video edits, professional video edits, so I can focus more on the content, and then otherwise I would spend too much time. Raja says assalamu alaikum. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. I don't know if Sidben got in, but I'm gonna share that with him as well. All right, I think the stream quality itself is really good. We should be able to see some information here and there. I'm just trying to organize my screen so I can see all of your amazing messages as fast as possible. Cool. There we go. So we were actually working on some sort of DOM manipulation last time, and we did some good stuff, although we did not finalize it, and there was an assignment given to the folks who said that we want assignment, so I gave it to actually all of them, those of you who even didn't want it. But yeah, that's what happens. Even in universities, you might have seen that there's only one guy that asks for assignment, and then everyone gets it. Mikal, I'm gonna try to put it actually, and then we'll see how that works out for all of us. All right, let's see. Let's actually begin. Raja says more on technical stuff. What do you mean by that? Do you want me to talk about more on technical stuff, or do you mean something else? What do you mean? I'm just cleaning up my screen. I have a lot of things opened up which we don't actually want. There we go. Close this, close that, open beginners workspace. There we go. All right, so I think what we'll do is that we'll begin with looking at one of the people who did the assignment. That is really good. So let's begin with that, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, so let's see. Walaikum assalam, Salman. How's it going? Everything good? Walaikum assalam. Let's go and let's see the screen. One of the feedbacks that was really important that I got from one of the folks from the YouTube videos is that I should be able to minimize this screen that you see me on, because sometimes what happens is that people are not able to see the code. So the previous window was huge and I wanted to get rid of that. So I think this setup looks modest, and I think we can work with this, right? Probably gonna move it a bit here, and there we go. Cool. All right, so we had some code already and we started looking into this JS DOM manipulation. Let's quickly open it up so we can see this working. So this is what we were working on last time. You left video editing and now you are on technical stuff. Exactly, yes. I don't want to focus on video editing myself because someone else can do it better, I think. So we don't have to focus on that. All right. Cool. It's going to be 1 a.m. here. Unfortunately, I have to leave. Hope you can put your content on YouTube so I can start from there. Yeah, sure. No problem. Mutahir Rahman. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. All right. Let's begin. So I think what we decided was I'm going to begin with showing Sidban's work, who actually built something. So there's at least one kid that follows the assignments and practices. So let me quickly do that. Cool. Let's see. Where did it go? So one kid did that, and here's the link. So this is what we built last time, and it's really, I'm really happy to see that someone followed that. And the one who followed that is Sidban. This is the CodePen link, and you can go and follow him there. On console, it says good, which means it should be good. What we have here is his code. So we got the JS, we got the CSS, we got the HTML. Oh, this is neat. This is pretty neat. You see how the CSS label goes from here to here? That's pretty dope. So we got the HTML here, we got the CSS here, and we got the JavaScript here. And in the JavaScript, there are many things happening here as well. And what we have here is we have the chicken pasta. If I add another chicken pasta, that's something that is missing, Sid, if you're watching this. So one of the things that we discussed about was that if I add the same item, or if we click the same item, it should be added to the count should be added here. So that was one of the things. But what Sid implemented and we did not so far is, uh, if I click this plus, you can see that it kind of increases the number here. All right. And if I click minus, it also decreases the number here. So those are the things that are really cool. One more thing that Sid implemented is, if we go and take the count to to 1, this minus icon changes to a delete icon, and this is really cool. So hats off to Sid, who implemented this, took his time, and yeah, came up with this enthusiasm that he has done something. And I would love to see more of you doing the same thing to showcase your work. I know that Raja does it all the time. So yeah, and when I took the name of Raja, I realized that I have two things to discuss with him. So I'm gonna discuss with you later. Just remind me after the chat. So I have some things in discussion, and let's talk about what we can implement from here. The inspiration that we were taking was from foodpanda. So if we open foodpanda.pk, what we saw there was that if I go to delivery, and let's say if I pick anything from here, I'm hungry already. I'm gonna probably make a tea during the stream, but yeah, maybe I'll give you something to do and then I'll go there. Oh my god, Dunkin' Donuts. That's not fair. We don't have Dunkin' Donuts here in Sweden, unfortunately. What I'm absolutely missing is this particular sandwich that I liked. It was barbecue something, yeah, spicy barbecue chicken. No, there was one more, that was roasted beef. I think I was probably in love with the roasted beef. Exactly, this one. If you are into creamy sandwiches, this one is the one that you should be ordering, the roasted beef one. It's a bit dry, but it's good. Anyways, I think we got distracted on what we should be talking about. So we should be talking about the actual feature and not food. So when we have this here, what happens is that if I start clicking on this element, this plus, we have to add some things from here, but let's pick something that is non-configurable. So let's say we go and say Alaska Supreme. This is configurable. Do we have, yeah, mineral water? If I click this, you see that the mineral water immediately comes here, and you see the same thing here. We do have the plus icon here, we do have the delete button here, and we see other stuff here as well. All right, so this is what we wanted. Now if I click the mineral water again the same time, see what happens. It goes here and updates the item count to 2, and this is what we were talking about. So if I click the same item, it goes ahead and updates the amount. It also updates this whole value here. I don't know why, but it takes some time to actually increase this number. You see, when I click on this, it takes some time, and then it turns to 500. I'm not sure what it's doing. Maybe it's doing a backend call, and then it's returning a value, and then it's updating something. Now I'm curious, so I'm gonna actually check what happens. So if I go here and if I click mineral water, they use this calculate API call. It sends probably all of the orders. So in the payload, they have all the products. Here we have all the products. Each product has its price, or maybe the current price, with the value of mineral water, the vendor, blah blah blah. There are a lot of things going on there, and then from the response, we get back the products array, and we get the new price, which is 500 to 600. Boom! That's how you use foodpanda if you are a developer. So now that we have this information, let's talk about what Sid Ben actually did. One of the really good things that he did was implementing these two things. So if here even you see this is a minus and this is a plus, if I go back from here, you will see that we have now the delete button here when the value becomes 1. So that's here. Oh, one of the things that I'm curious about now is actually if I keep pressing the minus button, do they wait for me to press more, or do they send a call every time? They do wait. They do wait a bit. They do wait. So if I click minus, 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 although waiting time is really small, but they do wait for a while. Okay, okay, I'll give it to you, Food Panda, Foodora. I'll give it to you. That's fine. So we are also doing audits today. It looks like. So again, going back to here, whenever we have this 1, it would result in having a delete button, and then when we have a value that is more than 1, then we are going to say this is a minus icon here. And then whenever we increase the value of this whole item, what should happen is that it should reflect the total value here, and that is what Sidban has done. So let's say this says 15 euro. If I tried increasing it, you can see the value increases as I do that, and that's really quick because we are not dependent on any API, right? So that's what's happening at the moment. But the thing is, if we do this in such a way, we should also be catering one thing, which is when I click this chicken pasta, and if I click it again, it should also add that item to the list. That's what's not happening right now. If we have 2 Red Bulls, and if I go here and click a 3rd Red Bull, then it becomes 3, and the amount also increases. So that's what we are going to do today. If any one of you did the assignment and want me to showcase that, feel free to share, and I will potentially share it live here as well. If not, then we are gonna go ahead and kind of try to finalize this one. Okay. Looking at the Dunkin' Donuts, I am now feeling really hungry. So what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna go and come back in about 3 minutes, and then we'll continue from here. All right, actually 5 minutes. So we're gonna be doing a 5 minutes break, and then we are going to continue working on this. So just bear with me, and we'll take it from there. All right. Awesome. We have AMBMW498I. Welcome to Code with Essen. Hope you enjoy and learn a lot today. We are going to be doing some DOM manipulation today. So welcome to the channel since you're first here. If you don't know about how to start or how to begin, you need to go to github.com/codewithasen or code-with-asen, and then you need to download this JS Beginners Workplace. This is the folder where we keep all our amazing stuff. So we have this JS DOM manipulation folder here, and these are the files that we are going to be working with today. So I'm going to just copy this link and share that in the chat, in actually every chat. So we got YouTube, there you go. We also got our Twitch, so I'm going to share this on Twitch as well. And we also have our Facebook. Let's do that as well. Title says, the title wasn't updated. I don't know why. Let's see. Looks like the Facebook's title wasn't updated. All right, give me 1 second before I actually do something about it. If you don't know about how to start, yep, that's me. I don't need to hear myself. All right. So give me 5 minutes. I'm going to be back in 5 minutes, and I'm going to try to handle this in the meantime as well. So be right back. All right, I'm back and shouldn't be showing this. Cool. All right, let's go forward. So how do we make sure that we are going in the right direction? We go ahead and we code the rest of the stuff. So let's start coding for which we are here. So a couple of things. We'll begin with just identifying these styles. So we have this pink color here that we discussed. So we're going to be using that for the plus and the minus icon. First of all, we don't have any icon. One question I see in the chat is background music genre, sir. I fall asleep after listening. I don't know the genre, to be honest. But all of the audio that you hear is actually not from any instrument. So it's vocals. So I think whatever they can do, they have done that. If you want, I can actually remove the audio itself, so you don't have to sleep. But it's up to you, to be honest. Hobab, I have fixed the title, so that should be good. All right, let's go. Let's go into the code now. And along the way, we're gonna be saying welcome to whoever joins the stream. So That Onion, welcome to Code with SN, and I hope you learned quite a lot in this stream today. Alright, so we'll begin with working with the JS DOM manipulation, and here let's talk about first adding those icons. So for the icons, we're going to use something called font awesome. So we're going to go ahead and type font awesome. And here we actually have a CDN that we can use for font awesome for these icons. So let's actually go ahead and search font awesome CDN. So we got font awesome here. We got the 6.0.0 beta, but we actually want something that is 5 point something. So anything before 5 point something, yeah. So we got this one, and let's see. So we got font awesome.min.css. I think this is the one that we want. So we're going to be copying this one, and we're going to go ahead and include this into our HTML. So we're going to go ahead in the code, and here in the code, just around the style CSS, we're going to include another link tag, and we're going to have a link tag that is of CSS, and then we'll in the href we are going to paste this whole link. All right, so once we do this, font awesome should be available for our page, and we should be able to use font awesome code. So if we go back to font awesome, which is this side, we can actually start looking at the icons themselves. So if you go and click icons up top, you should be able to see all these icons. Okay, and when you see those icons, you should be also able to just use any of those. So it's really easy to work with font awesome if you have not done it already. So how do you do that? You just say plus, let's say, and then you get this icon, and then you click on this or control click or whatever, and you can see what is the word behind this, and it's plus. So what you would do is that when you click on start here, you can click start using this icon, and here you get the code for this one. So you just copy this code, and then we're going to go into our HTML, and in the HTML, and let me know and stop me in the chat if you think I'm going too fast, because I don't want to go too fast. So here we have certain HTML elements, but the ones that we are interested in is this one. In this cart menu, what we have here is essentially this minus icon, and here instead of this this plus icon, and here we can use this plus icon instead. So we got this FA plus blah blah blah. So we're going to use this, and let's see if this reflects in our UI. So here it does not reflect in our UI, which means that we have done something terribly wrong. So we have used actually font awesome.min, but maybe we should be using this one. Let's try it out. Let's try the all min.css. So here we have this CSS. Let's refresh, and yes, there we go. We got the plus icon right here. So it looks like the font awesome CSS only includes the fonts, but maybe leaves out some information there. So we got the plus icon here. Let's see what we have for minus. So here, if we go back here, let's try finding minus. and here we got minus, and we can see actually the sort of icon name here. So we have minus or minus square, or you could use either of those, right? So let's say we use this minus one, which means that we're gonna be creating the same code as plus, just the fa plus would be changed to fa minus. So here let's create an I tag that has a class fas and also has a class fas minus. What magic am I doing here, typing so fast? Actually, this is Emmett, and I shared this in one of my videos as well. So you could create HTML just like this. Let's try this out. If I refresh, everything is gone. Because why? Because this is not FAS, this should be FA. Refresh, there we go. We got the minus and the plus. Now the question is, how do we make sure that when it's 1, then it shows a delete sign, but when it's more than 1, then it shows something else? Let's talk about that. So the way we would be doing exactly that is we're gonna look at the code every time we add something, and then we're gonna be utilizing that added item. For instance, if I refresh, you can see by default we get this particular element here. But what's actually interesting is that if I add another item here, let's say this one, this doesn't get those. And the reason is that this particular HTML is hard coded for only one element. Okay, the actual code when we add an item doesn't come from here. So I'm gonna remove this hard coded item right from here. So let's remove this. Now the cart list is empty by default. All right, and I'm just following from where we left last time. Sebel, good evening, how's it going? So by default the cart is empty, we don't have anything. But if I add this item, you can see that it starts adding those items, right? One of the issues that I have is this cart is actually, it's okayish, but what I don't like about this one is it kind of expands and contracts, and it has this sort of weird behavior where it is changing its width. So we don't want that. So let's try to make sure that we have a fixed width for this cart. So here in this cart we have the cart list, and we have this cart class here, or cart element. Here we have this cart min width set to 50%. But what I would like to do is I would like to fix this width, and let's say take the rest of the items, take the full width. All right, so, or at least let's say minimum 50% is okay. So in this particular case, what I would like to do is, we have display flex already. We want to give this menu the whole width, but we just want to have this one here, let's say, have a particular fixed width. So right now the width of this element is, if I see this is 254 pixels into 266, so 254 pixels in general. So what I would do here is that I'm gonna go to my style.css, and here I'm gonna say that this content dot cart is actually not cart, but cart is actually of width. It was what exactly? 254 pixels. Let's say 250 pixels, for instance. So here we're gonna give this 250 pixels. So if I refresh now, you see that we got 250 pixels. Here, if I now add items or remove items, it doesn't matter exactly, because you can see the items are exactly the same. So by default we see this, but then we add items and it looks exactly the same. So we are good there. We don't have any worries here. Now that we have this information here, we could want that this item or this whole div takes, let's say, the maximum width possible. If we want this menu to take up the whole width of this entire element, we could give this something called a flex1, and then it would take the maximum space available. All right, so we don't need that at the moment, so we are just gonna live with this. We are going to make it responsive later on, but that's not the point of this video. We're going to be mostly looking into the functionality here. So now that we have this information, what we talked about was replacing these two icons. So in the HTML where we had those icons as FA minus and FA plus, I'm going to copy these. The cart list right now is empty. I'm going to go into my JavaScript file, and in my JavaScript, where we have this template inside this render method of the class cart item, here we also have these plus and minus. So I'm going to replace this plus and minus by this code. So here goes FA as FA minus, and here instead of this plus character, we got FA plus. Now, since this is inside the class items render method where we have the whole string, what happens is that now if we try to add any item, the icon goes with that. All right. So if I add more items, you can see that more items get this information. All right. So I think everyone is with me so far. One more thing that I would like to do is actually to reduce this whole element's height and kind of fix it. So if I have more items, I can just scroll through it. So let's say if we want to have the height of this whole div set to something like, let's see what we can do with here. Let's say we get this a max height of 400 pixel, then it becomes something like this, as you can see. But the content inside this is actually flowing. So I'm not going to give a class to this, but I'm going to give a class to this cart list. So here I'm going to give this, let's say 360 pixel. All right, which kind of sums up like this. I'm going to remove the class from here. All right, so this doesn't have any maximum height, but this does. And then I'm going to give this an overflow Y of auto. Now what this does is that this will make sure that if the content is within this height, which is 360 pixel, then it will not show any scroll. But if it's more than that, then it will show a scroll. All right. One of the things that we could do in order to make this a bit better, to not have this gap and then have this sort of scroll being shown here somewhere, is that instead of having this padding that we have on the cart level, we might want to have the padding inside here. So what I'm going to do is that first I'm going to do what we did here. So I'm going to copy this maximum height and overflow Y. Let's copy this, go to our CSS, and for the class of cart, actually not cart, but cart list. So we're going to say content dot cart dash list. And here we're going to give these two styles, which are maximum height and overflow. Now if I refresh this and add some items, you will see that we get this scroll. So we get this scroll, we are good here. Now what I talked about is we need to remove this gap from here and kind of move this scroll bar to this end. The reason we have this scroll kind of having this gap is because the outer container of this list, so this is the list, you can see where it renders, right? So instead of having this rendering here, if it rendered the full width, then this scroll would be at the full width itself. But since it's here, it's taking this spacing from this card, because you see this green background. The green background is the padding from this cart element. So the cart element has some space inside it. All right. Then comes the cart list. Cart list doesn't have any spacing logic. It just is there. But the outer cart element is pushing the inner element inside with this padding. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove this padding. You can see that it goes to the corners, and instead of this padding from here, I'm going to add some margin, or sorry, some padding inside this cart list. So I'm going to actually remove this padding from this place to this cart list. All right. Padding. And you see that now we got some inner gaps similar to before, but now the scroll bar is at the very corner, and this looks much better in my personal opinion. So we should be doing this and not that, what we were doing. All right. So far so good. We need to remove this padding from there to there. So let's do that. So we're going to remove the padding from cart and move to cart list. Let's do that in the code as well. So in the code, we have the padding somewhat around here. So we're going to remove this from the cart, but we are going to move this into the cart list here. And since we already have a cart class, I'm going to remove this width from here and then move it inside here. So we have all the things, all the styles for a cart at one place. and I'm also going to just remove this code from here and bring it here just for alignment, so to say. So we got cart list, we're good. Now that we have this information here, let's try this out and see if it actually works. So I add items, you see the gap here, and you also see the scroll. So we got the scroll as well, and we got the gap as well. But we also got an issue, and the issue is that now this element doesn't have any spacing from left or right, and that is because previously this cart had that padding. We removed that. Since we removed that, this h4 takes the full space. Now how do we give this element also some gap? By doing the same thing as cart itself. So here we have this padding of 20 pixel from left and right. We can do the same thing here on cart, and here we can say something like padding 20 pixel, and you can see that it kind of becomes the same with this cart now. All right, so I hope this makes sense. All right, now that we have this thing here, actually what I'm thinking is kind of making this similar to this guy. You see that here the title is above this list, and here the title is inside. So I'm not pretty sure about that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove these borders from this guy to move it to cart list instead. So let's do this. So I'm gonna go to style and remove this border and border radius from cart and move this to the cart list. And now they both kind of look the same. So if I now open, it kind of looks similar now. Welcome to Code with SN, Humberto Daniel, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Welcome. Now you see it looks much alike. We have the title and then we have some code here. All right, so this is okay, this is cool. What we could also do is we could have another element instead of cart list, and we could give that the class as well. And the reason I'm saying that is that we want to have a total here as well at the bottom, which we don't have right now. So we're gonna add that, and we're gonna do some structural changes. So first, let's say we have a cart inner element inside which we would have this cart list, and inside which we would have cart total. So we got two elements here. Now I'm gonna move the styles. So if I refresh now, you will see that if I add some items here, this looks okay, we are good. The only problem that I see is that when I refresh, this doesn't have anything, and this is a problem because this should be at least having some height. So in order to have that, I'm gonna add the height here. So we are gonna say something like minimum height, or actually not minimum height but just height, set to, let's say, 360 pixel. So we got this one here, and we're gonna move this to the cart inner styles. So here I'm gonna go and say something like content cart inner, and this guy should be of height 360 pixels, not 260 but 360. All right, and this cart inner should also have these borders, so I'm gonna put that. Let's refresh. You see that we have an outer border and then an inner border. So the inner border right now is for this cart list, so I'm gonna remove the inner border from here. Then I'm gonna refresh, and now you see we don't have anything, but if I add something, it comes here. So this is good stuff. Now I want to have a total. So here in the cart total, I would have some sort of text like total is 100 or 1000. Cool, it's time already. All right. So if I refresh now, you will see that we have this div that says total is blah blah blah. And if I add item, the total goes down and it kind of goes all the way here, which is not really ideal. So what I want to do is that in this cart inner itself, I want to have something, and that something is essentially this guy. So we would have this cart inner being display flex, and the flex direction would be column. Let's try this out. Then I'm gonna add some things, and now you see this element, this stays here, it doesn't go away. Do you see what's happening here? So we got this element right here, This particular scroll, this is on the cart list, as you can see. This total always stays at its position, it doesn't move, and this is what we want. Then this cart inner is the entire element which has this sort of padding within it, right? One of the things that we would like to have is that this cart list, this shouldn't have the padding, but we should move this padding actually to this cart inner. So I could move it here, and this is then how this would look. So padding, this. Oh no, we can't. For the cart list, we cannot have a padding from left and right, but we got to have a padding here in this particular moment. So we're gonna do that. Let me do that. So the cart total should also have, so we have a padding on cart list, we also need a padding on cart total. So we are gonna say something like padding, and then do this, and you see that now we have this total here as well. Probably not give this a bottom 20 pixel, maybe 10 pixel. That is fine for us. For top as well, I'm gonna give this a 10 pixel, so we can quickly and easily say something like 10 pixel, 20 pixel. This is okay for me. I would like to have the text aligned for now to right, having something like this. So this is how it would look. Ideally, total is blah blah blah. And now that we have both of these styles, we can add that to the cart total class. So we're gonna go into the code, and here we're gonna say something like content dot cart and then dot cart total. And here we have those styles. So let's refresh. We got this guy here, and we have the other element as well, which is here. The only thing that we are not doing is that we need to add this property flex1 to this cart list. So let's do that real quick. So we're gonna go to cart list and add flex1. So now whenever we refresh, you can see that this place is empty because we have flex1. That's why we have this whole div taking the whole space. Welcome Marcos Nasak, welcome to Code with Essen, and hope you enjoy the stream today. All right, so this guy takes the whole space. This one has only the bottom place here, so we are using that. Welcome to Code with Essen CNTI. Welcome to Code with Essen. Hope you learned something good from here today. So we keep adding items. We see that the items are actually in a good user interface manner that we see here. We can remove some items. We cannot remove some items because that's what we have not implemented so far. We got an HTML that contains a place where we could have a total. So that's that. And we are able to add some items. So let's say if I add chicken pasta, we get 200 here. We get a plus minus button. We click again on chicken pasta. We increase the number by 2. We add another item. So we add that. If I double click on this one again, the items becomes 3. That's what we have so far. But now we also want to do multiple things. For instance, we want to be able to click this plus button and do something else. But even before that, I think what we need to figure out is whatever count we have here, this number should actually represent the same sort of value, which is per item amount into the count that we have here. And that's what we are not doing at the moment. So let's try to do that. Right now in the code, if I go and check the cart item render function, what you will see here is that we have this item where we show the title, which is actually this guy here, the title. Then we have this currency, which is rupees here. So here it says rupees. Then we have this price here, which is this for this guy. The thing is that what we want to do is we want to be able to increase the price for this particular element that we have. And the thing is that right now there's no way. When we update a particular value, we just update the number, the quantity of it. So if I look at the code, which is right here in this line, whenever we click on a menu item, which is this one, whenever we click a menu item, it goes and checks, hey, is the item already in the list or not? You don't understand English very well, but I will pay attention to everything you do. All right, Sanity. Sounds good. So if the item exists already, item already exists in the cart, and here I'm going to comment item does not exist in the cart. So in this particular case, you can see that when it doesn't exist, then we create a new cart item, but when it exists, we just update the quantity. Now, what are we doing here? We are essentially going and querying the exact element, then we update the quantity value. The thing is, would it be cool if we could just access the particular cart item and then do all the things from here, because that's what we have the class for. So this is now going to be a bit interesting because we are going to use some JavaScript logic here. So first thing first, we need to have an array of cart items here. So I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cart items array. Whenever we create a new item, what we'll do here is that we are going to add that item to the cart. So here, what I'll do is that I'll add that item, cart items dot push, and here I'm gonna add this new cart item that we did before. Now, the only thing that is remaining is what I want to do is, instead of when we create a new item, we also create this whole div. Instead of doing that, what I want to do is that I want to render the cart accordingly. So what would happen is that in this particular case, let's see. So we got the ID here and we add that item into the items as well. Now what I need to do is that whenever a cart is already present in this cart items, we want to get that particular cart item and then update its view. So the way we will do that is that first we are going to log that item or find that item in this array. So let's say whenever we are updating an item, we just log the cart items array. Let's try this out in the source code. So here in the source, what you would do is, let's see. And what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to make sure that my screen or my video doesn't kind of hurt the code as well. So I'm going to go in the screen only mode now. Let's do this. All right. So now let's see. Now that we have the code only. So let's say we have chicken pasta in the, let's say we first add an item to the cart. This is what happens when there's no item in the cart or the item does not exist in the cart. So when I click here, you will see that it comes in here in this particular chunk. So it says, hey, the item does not exist in the cart. When it does that, it creates a new cart item with the title and the price. It goes inside, all right? And then what happens is that this essentially takes the HTML and then it also creates this element. So it then is kind of gets the list, then it creates a div, then it adds some classes to it, and then it appends that to the list. So you see that here, just like this, all right? Now what we are doing here is that we are also adding that item to the cart items. So in this particular scenario, if I go forward, you will see that the cart items now have this particular element, the new cart item. And sorry, actually this shouldn't be this cart item. This should essentially be, let me quickly see. So we got this item here and it should be actually this cart item. Let's try this again. So we click this, we come here, and then when we come at this point, we are able to see the cart item itself, which is this cart item that we just created with the title and the price. What we also should be doing is using this ID as well. So one of the things that this cart item should have is the ID itself. So what I'm going to do is that this cart item should have a title, should have a price, should have an ID, and should also have a quantity. All right. And this quantity reflects here when we have this value here. Okay. So when we have a cart item, that means that we should have a value for its quantity, we should have the value for its price, we should have a value for its title, and we should also have its ID. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to use the ID here, the price value, and the quantity as well. And by default, we are going to say the quantity is going to be 1. So if we don't provide the quantity, that's going to be 1 by default. So we are going to say this dot ID equals ID, this dot quantity equals quantity. So this variable, or we could say quantity value, let's say, and this quantity value is going to be assigned here, and this is ID value, just for the sake of your understanding. So we got ID value assigned to this dot ID, quantity value assigned to this quantity, and this is what we have. One question I see in the Twitch chat is, sir, how do you do the checking process, because I didn't understand it. What is the checking process? All right, this one. Yeah, all right, I'm gonna explain this to you in just a bit. But understand this, that each cart item that we see on the screen has a couple of things: the title, the price, and the quantity. These are the main 3 things. Then when we check a particular item, we check it by this data ID. So what happens is that these menu items, each of this item has this data ID attribute. You see that this is the first item, this is the second item, this is the third item, fourth item, blah blah blah. So each item has an ID, and the ID is always unique. So we have 100, 101, 102, 103, blah blah blah. But when we check this guy here, which is this cart item, this also has, if I look at this cart item, you see that in the cart list, this first cart item also has the data ID. So when we are comparing if this chicken pasta exists inside this cart, we check each item in the cart and we compare if any of the items have the same ID as well or not. So you can see this cart item has this ID. This menu item also has the same ID, which is 100. Mouse pointer highlighter. Can I use a mouse pointer highlighter right now? Highlighter Windows 10. Is that something I can use? Get a mouse pointer highlight. Let's do it right now. Why not? Let's see. Let's highlight stuff. You own this app. I do? Okay. Installing. Launch. Ooh. Come on. Why didn't you tell me about this one before? This is amazing. Who told me? Salman. Salman. I wish I could write Salman here. Alright, Salman. There we go. Now you should be able to see everything in the bright sunlight. Okay. Is this the right color that we should be using? Or should we be using some sort of purple? This is good actually. This is good. Thank you so much for the suggestion. This is highly valuable. If I apply this, ooh, awesome. Let's use our theme. I closed the highlighter, mouse pointer highlighter. All right, this is sad. I actually lost it. Microsoft. I gotta make a shortcut for this one. Store, please open up. Can I check what I installed just now? My library. My installed. Yeah, please open it. Please, thank you. All right, I cannot just close it. So I cannot close it. I have to keep it open. I didn't know. All right. So let's talk further. So we got this element here, and we got the data ID here. As you can see, we have this 100 right here. Similarly, in the cart item also, in this particular item, we got the 100 here as well. So that's how we compare. And I think now sit when you understand how do we compare these values. So where was I actually? Yeah, I was talking about each element has these three things at least: the text, the price, the quantity. So what we need to do is that we need to have the text or the title, the price, and the quantity. And we also should be having an ID, because each ID essentially should be assigned with the cart item itself. All right. So I hope that makes sense so far. Okay, let's see. So now that we have this information, let's see what happens whenever we click a particular item or menu item. So whenever we go and whenever we click either of these items, what happens is that we get this menu item click basically called. And when this is called, then we create a new cart item with the item title, item price. But I want to also use the ID. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to pick the ID, because we have the item ID right here. So I'm going to pass this item ID from here. And then I'm not going to pass any quantity from here, although I could say quantity 1, but I'm not going to pass this here. Okay. So now that we have this value here, what we're going to do is we're going to have this for the editing method as well. So now if I save this, go back here, click here, see what happens. So I'm going to go to sources, and here I'm going to have the breakpoint here. If I click here, see what happens. In this particular case, when we had this new item created, let me refresh, click here. So here we have the ID 100 for the chicken pasta. We have the title chicken pasta. We have the price here. Now when this goes inside this cart item, it goes inside the constructor. And in the constructor, we get the ID value, the title, the price value, and the quantity value by default is set to 1. When this is set, what happens is that it generates a new instance of this cart item, and the cart item that we get is this: ID 100, price 200, quantity 1, and this is chicken pasta. All right, does that make sense? So I think we are pretty good on understanding what's happening here. But the thing is that if I want to show multiple values for price, for instance, whenever I click this plus, or if I click this again, then this becomes 2, but this doesn't change. The reason for this is that when we go in the edit mode, we directly go and we change this particular text. We should not be doing actually that. What we should do is we should be updating the exact element which the cart has. So first of all, we need to find, hey, which element has been updated. Let's say we got 2 more items here, this item and this item. Now if let's say I update this dal chawal, then what would happen is that if I click here on this one, we come here and then we try to see if this value exists in the cart. For checking the cart, we pass the item ID for this one, and this doesn't have an ID. Why exactly does this? That's weird. I think we have missed something in the code. Yeah, this is messed up. This data ID is messed up. Let me fix that real quick. In the code, that's not accurate. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna see the HTML code here, and the data ID here is this. This is weird. Why do I have an underscore here? Oh, we got this one wrong. All right, that was an HTML error, noob error. So that has been fixed. Let's go and try this out again. We got chicken pasta. I'm gonna remove this. We got biryani. We got dal chawal. Let's say if I try to increase the value of dal chawal by just clicking here once more, what would happen is that it would come here with the ID of this item, which is 103. It would pass item ID here. Then it would go there and try to find the existing item using the query selector. Once this finds this item, it actually returns back the exact HTML that you can see is highlighted. So if I hover over it, you can see it's highlighting this item, the same item in the cart. Once this does that, then we are able to go ahead and then we use this existing item, which is this existing item, and then we update the value just like this. All right. Instead of doing this, what we should be doing is we should have this cart items array populated with each cart item. Okay. each cart item has a method that is called render. So we should be re-rendering this item with the new values, and that is what we should be doing. So I'm going to do that by using by instead of hard coding this whole logic here, I'm going to change how we check an item, and I'm going to also change how we render the value. All right, to 2 steps and baby steps. First of all, I'm going to change this whole code, or I'm going to comment this one out, so we don't have anything when we update the code. What we want to see is checking if the item exists in the cart already, and we already have an array of items where we add these cart items. So here you can see that in this cart items array, we already have the cart items, and each cart has this ID. So why don't we just check this array and check this cart item? So what I'm going to do in this code here, when we check the items in cart, instead of checking the DOM or the view, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say const existing item equals, then I'm going to check the cart items array, which is this one. So I'm going to say cart items dot find, because I'm trying to find an element inside an array. And you do that by using the find method, which takes a parameter or a function essentially, and this function gets each cart item one by one. So here it gets cart item. So for each cart item, I want to return if the cart item dot id equals the item id. So whenever there comes a case where any of the cart items matches this item id, that is my existing item. So let's try this actually in action. So here I'm going to refresh. I'm going to click this chicken pasta. This is going to do something. I'm going to add this biryani. Sorry, what did I do? Oh, this item. So existing item, blah, 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 exists should be false. For some reason, it returns true. Let's check. Let's debug. Refresh, click, it comes here, it goes here, and then it returns what exactly? Exists is true. How exactly is this true? So we go forward, we go with the item ID 100, we go inside, then we check if the cart item can be found. So here the cart item should actually be, oh, we are checking if it's not equals to null. So we shouldn't be doing that. We should just say if the existing item exists. So here I'm gonna just change this condition, and I think we should be good. So we refresh, we click, we come here, we go inside the function. So we don't go yet, but we will. Sorry, refresh, click, it will come here, it will go inside this function, it will try to find the existing item, which it will not, because the cart item ID is 100. There is no cart item so far, so array is 0. So I'm going to go forward, existing item is undefined, it returns this back. Then we check, hey, is the item existing? No, because it is undefined, so we got false here. Then we create a new item. We create a new item, we add it to the cart items array as well, and we add it to the DOM as well. Now let's say I click another item, go with the same process, but now if I'm trying to add another chicken pasta, in that case we should have something different. So if I click here now, we got the item ID 100. We go inside, we see, hey, what are the cart items? Now the cart items are 2. One is chicken pasta, second is biryani. The first one, chicken pasta, has the ID 100. And it also has the second item, which has ID 101. So in this case, what happens is that it comes within the code and then tries it with the first item. So we are checking cart item 100. Is it the same as the item ID? And it exactly is, because both are chicken pasta. So when it finds it, the existing item is not undefined, not false, not null. It's actually the cart item. So what we do here is that we return this back, and now we got the existing item here. All right. Now we need to do something with that item. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to break this code that we have into multiple things. First thing first, we need to add the item into the cart. All right. So for that, I'm going to create a function. Here, I'm going to say const add item to cart. For this one, I'm gonna just take this new cart that we have, which is this new, sorry, not this one, but actually this cart that we create here, the cart item. So when we get this cart item, we're gonna pass this cart item to this function, and this function will do everything that we are doing here. So I'm gonna just cut all of this from here and then paste it here. And then this cart item should be passed using the function. So I'm gonna say add item to cart, and here I'm gonna pass cart item. This is making our code absolutely beautiful because we are changing how it all works and how it all looks. So this function has the responsibility to use this cart item, generate the HTML, do all the stuff, push it to the array, and also show this into the UI. So if I refresh now, see what happens. I'm gonna put a breakpoint here. So at this point, I'm gonna add chicken pasta. It comes here, it says, hey, that doesn't exist in the array so far. So the exists is false. Therefore, it comes here. It generates this new cart item. And then once this is done generating this, then it passes the new cart item, which is this one, to this add item to cart function. It goes inside, then it first gets the HTML of this cart item using the render method. So we get all the HTML here with the price and all. Then we basically get the cart list. Then we create a new item, add some classes, assign the HTML, assign the ID as well, which is the item ID here. So it's gonna break because we don't have the item ID. Instead of item ID, we are gonna be using the new cart item not new cart item, but cart item.id. So here we're gonna be using cart item.id. Let's try this again. Refresh. I'm gonna remove this from here. Click this one. Go forward, go forward, go forward, go forward. And in this particular case, when we got the cart item.id, which is 100, we assign this to the HTML to be created. Then we append this. And when we do, this ID that we just assigned to this HTML appears right here in the HTML, right here. So you should be able to see this now. Now that we have this done, we are pushing this to the cart items. That is cool. So we got this cart items here. Now what I want to do is that I want to do the same for edit. So here for the edit, I'm gonna create a function and I'm gonna call it edit item in cart. So I'm gonna pass the cart item here, just like this. And then what would happen is that here, I need to find this cart item. But in order to have this item edited, I'm not gonna pass the cart item, but rather I'm gonna pass the item ID, this one. So I'm gonna use the item ID here. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm gonna say const, or I would actually say edit item in cart and pass the item ID. Now what should happen here is that, sorry, I should be getting the existing item here. So I'm gonna use the cart item here as well. Cart item, cart item. So in this particular case, we get the cart item or the existing item. We could say cart item, or yeah, existing item is fine. So this existing item is the item in cart. So let's use that, and I'm gonna just console log it for baby steps. So we got a cart item. Let's see if this works. So if I refresh, and if I just click here, let's add chicken pasta. It would go through all the process, get added. And if I hit chicken pasta again, it now goes here, moves forward, comes back from here because it would find it. Then we will get this in the existing item variable, just like this. So we got the chicken pasta, we found it here because it's here in the cart. And then it will go forward and go in edit item in cart as the cart item. So here it goes inside, and here you see the cart item being logged. So we got the cart item here. Now how do we update this? And this is going to be interesting because we would have to do the least amount of work in this case. How do we get this? How do we update this? Well, since we are editing an item in the cart, what we could do is we could either decrease the quantity, increase the quantity, or delete the item itself, right? So let's say when we click the menu item click, we want to edit the item but we also want to pass something like what should we do with this item. Should we add it, delete it, or increase or decrease the quantity? So let's say we have a couple of actions. We can create a constant for this action. Let's say we say something like const menu or cart item actions, and here we have a couple of constants. The first constant is increase quantity, and we can call this, let's say, increase. Second is decrease quantity, and we can call this decrease. Similarly, third one could be something like delete item, and we can call it, let's say, delete. We can also make this capital because it's a constant, so we can say something like cart item actions. And then when we are kind of passing this from here, we can also pass the action. So here in the edit item cart, this action would be essentially either one of these. So from here, what we will do is that when we are calling add item in cart, we are going to pass this action as, we're going to say cart item actions dot, and then we will say increase quantity. So that means we are editing an existing item, but we are increasing its quantity. So it will go inside here. We already got the cart item. So what we'll do here is that we'll apply an if condition to be simple. So we are going to say if the action equals cart item actions dot increase quantity, then do what exactly? First, update the quantity in the cart. So we can simply say cart item dot quantity plus plus, which means the quantity of the cart item will increase. Then what we will do is we will essentially try to find its HTML just like this. So we are going to try to do this. So here, let's try this. No, not here, but exactly here. So what would happen here is that we will do existing item dot query selector action. Here I am doing something wrong, and that is we need to get this existing item. So here, once we have got the quantity, then we will do something like this. And let me explain to you what we are doing there. I'm gonna do this and this. So what we are doing here is that we are saying, hey, if the quantity is supposed to be increased, then increase the quantity. Then try to find the existing item in the DOM via cart item dot id. Once we got the existing item in the DOM, which is here, then what we need to do is that just replace its HTML with the render function. So all these magic that we want to do, it's gonna go away. How? We're gonna simply say existing item dot inner HTML equals cart item dot render. Let's see if this works. So I'm gonna go and refresh this. Now I'm gonna add chicken pasta. It will do all the magic that it does. Then if I'm clicking chicken pasta again, let's see what happens. So here it will go again, and it will go through all this logic here, which we don't want. Then it will go in the edit item cart. Inside here, it will get the cart item first. Then it will see, hey, what is the action? And the action is increase, which is exactly this. So they will be combined. The cart item's quantity right now is 1, as you can see here. So the quantity would be increased to 2, and now you will see the cart item's quantity is 2. And now we are saying, hey, get the existing item in the cart. This is the item. You see it highlighted. And now, since we have this item here, we are replacing its whole HTML with the render method. Once we do that, you will see that something would break or not, because we haven't changed the quantity. Wait, I have done something wrong, and that was exactly what. So we have add item to cart. We got this in our HTML. which is the list group item. All right, we need to get this list group item. We get that actually. Then inside the HTML we update. All right. Okay. Let's see what happens. So if I refresh now, try this again. I'm gonna remove these from here, but just keep the one in edit. So if I click this one, let's see what happens. So the quantity should be here. All right, I know what's happening. We have not updated the render method. So here we need to do one more change to reflect the actual quantity and the price. Here you can see we have hard coded the price to always show this price value. But what we need to do here is that multiply this with the quantity. So we do this dot quantity. By default, when we add an item, see what happens. But if I edit this now and go here, see what happens. We get the result. All right. So this is the amazing part about this whole refactoring that we did, because this is amazing. Now if I go and click this again, you can see that it goes here, change the quantity to 3, because right now it's 2. So it changes this quantity to 3, but then also it goes here, finds out the existing element, which is this. Then in the render method, when it goes here, it prints the title, but then for the quantity, this now prints price into quantity, which means 200 into whatever the value is, and then returns the value 600. You can see that we are not updating the quantity here. Let's do that as well, because that also is hard coded at the moment, which is here, the quantity. So here, let's also change that to do something like this dot quantity. So now if I refresh, let's see what happens. Click, click, go forward, existing item, go inside render. Now the title is chicken pasta, the price is 200. Now this is also an interesting thing to change, because this price should be a number, so we might have to do some changes here. But the quantity is 2, and the quantity shown here is 1 at the moment, so we need to change that to 2. So now if I go forward, you see the quantity changes and the price also changes. As I said, this price should be a number, so what we'll do is that we'll do something like parse float, and here we'll parse it as a floating point, and then we'll multiply it with the quantity. Now all the breakpoints removed. Let's see what happens. Chicken pasta biryani. Now if I click chicken pasta, you see 2 here, multiply by 400, multiply by 200 equals 400. Then if we keep adding, the values keep multiplying. All right, so this is amazing. This is what we actually want. Code with Mullah. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. So everyone with me so far, do you understand what we did? And I'm going to show you my face as well in the meantime. So Sidban, I think you did it a bit differently. I'm doing it in a bit different way. But the amazing part is that the code that you see, it's actually really reusable. It's going to be really easy to modify it. It's going to be really easy to maintain it. And that is the whole idea. Tag Insider. All right. Awesome. All right. So let's move forward. You can see that all the functionality that we needed to do, we can do it really easily in just a few lines of code where we just change the HTML. We don't have to go find a particular element. We don't have to do much logic here. We just need to find out the cart item first in the array. So we find it out in the cart items array. Then we try to find out its element, and then we just change the render. And that is what we want to do. Okay. Now, if I want to click on this plus, that is exactly the same thing, right? We are doing the exact same thing in case of plus. So how do we make sure that when we click plus, this quantity changes? The reason I'm asking you this question is because this HTML here, which is this quantity or action right, action left, they are in this template. How would you add event listener to these elements? These are not in the DOM. These are not on the view. These are not in a variable. How would you bind an event handler to a string? Event.target. I'm not entirely sure how you did it, actually. Code Brigade says with React, half of the work is done by React hooks. Sidban, I've got to check your code actually, because here in this case, I have to bind to exactly this element. Or I think what you mean is exactly that you bind event listeners to the HTML itself or the cart list item. Do you bind your event listeners to cart list and then you check what was the target? Is that what you do? Because that is one way. To the document, you bind it to the document. Awesome. Awesome. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's really smart. So good job there. Yarmolenko Totointi. Welcome to Code with SN. I'm really bad at accents. Really bad. I've been trying to do British accents, but I'm so bad at that. Cumbermelon. Cucumber melon. Oh, that's smart. It's a Q and then it's a cumber. Nice. Welcome to Code with SN. Hope you learn a lot of things here. All right, so Sidban, who's the smartest guy in the room right now, no offense to anyone else, bound the event to the document. Can you give ID to them? Yes, you can. But the thing is that whenever I add an item to the view, then I would have to bind another, I would have to add another listener. The question is there a way for us to only bind all the event listeners one time and then handle that? The problem here is that in this particular case, we kind of are bound at the moment. We could do some magic with something like this. We could say something like on click, and then here we could have call a function. Let's say we could try that. Let's say we try that. Okay. Let's say we say something like there is a function that is called let's say const plus clicked. All right, let's say this is a function and we would have to define it at the very top actually. So let's say const plus is a function that is called, and we say plus clicked. So let's say we're talking about this thing, right? So when we do a plus clicked, can we do it something like this? Can we say that where was the on click? Where did I put the on click? Oh, here it is. It's on the price. Why do I have it on the price? We shouldn't be having that on the price. I'm gonna cut this from here. Let's say we put it here in the right action. Okay, not using these backticks. Just a small ticks here. Let's see if this works actually. So if I go to console, refresh, click here, click plus. This is what happens. So this is what React does, sort of, in a way as well. And this is what we can do. The question is, how do we get this particular cart item in that case? So this is what you could do. You could bind the function name as plus click here. Good one, Raja. So we got the plus clicked here. Similarly, we could have a minus clicked here. That's one thing. But I want to share one thing with you that is called event delegation. So let's say we say event delegation vanilla JavaScript and see how that works. Okay. We got some really good folks who have shared that within our within the industry. So it looks like we have some folks doing exactly what Sidban does. But what Sidban did was that he bound the events handler to the document. Now that is quite risky. Although it's good, it's smart, but it's quite risky because there could be multiple elements that would trigger the same thing. Now imagine that we have I closed everything. Imagine that we have this application and we are clicking on this button. Would it be wise to have it on the document, because then even if I'm click here, here, anywhere, that document event handler would be triggering. But if I just put it into a div which is almost there or always there, then that also works. So we know from the HTML that this cart element, which is this guy here, this cart element, this is always there. This cart inner, that is always there as well. This cart list even, that is always there. These items, they are generated dynamically, but this cart list is always there. So what we can do is that we can bind the event listener to this cart list, and then we can check what is the target. So the part where we have to find the target, that was very smart by Sid, and that is what we need to do as well. So where we have this function which says bind event handlers, we're gonna go here and then we are going to first find the cart list element. So we are gonna say cart list element, and here we're gonna say document dot query selector, and here we're gonna use the class cart list. Once we get this, we're gonna add an event handler to this one. So we're gonna do something like this. I'm gonna do some copy pasta, and then once we have this list element, then we are gonna see what happens when we click a button. So let's say we have something like something, okay? So what this does is that now if I start clicking here, you see that something is being logged. But if I go outside and click outside, that would not be logged. So what event delegation means is that we have a concept of event bubbling, which means that if I click something inside the cart list, let's say if I add an item and start clicking on this pasta, which is a text element, which is this item title, if I start clicking here, even then I would see this something message being printed. Why? Because in JavaScript or in the DOM, whenever you click an element, whether it's a text or this item primary or this group item or this cart list, wherever you click, it will bubble up. It will go from here to here, here to here, here to here, and then it will eventually go up top to the document. That is called event bubbling. So if that is something that someone asks from you in an interview, which I've not seen actually being asked in interviews, I don't know why. This is a core concept that everyone should know. So if an element is clicked, it goes all the way up document. Now the event delegation is opposite of this. Event delegation is delegating the responsibility or the event handler to a top element, and whenever something is clicked from in the nested elements, the delegate is actually what is listening to it. So it would go from a child up top to that element, up the hierarchy, and then we can identify which item was clicked. This is what's called event delegation, and we do this by exactly the same thing. What happens is that if I go here, what is here? So if I go here and show you, this is exactly doing the same thing. Let's say we have a unsorted list or a UL. We can bind an event listener to UL, and then we can see what is the target. Was it an li, a list item? If yes, then do something, otherwise don't do it. So that is how event delegation works. The good part about this is that whenever an item is created, we don't need to bind new listeners to that element. We can just have one parent listening to that event, and then we can see what item was clicked, because it goes from bottom to top or from inner side to external side. So that's how we can delegate this event. So in the cart list item, we can always check what is the current element. So let's say if I do console log E, which is this click event. So we do a click event dot current target. We can always identify what element was clicked, what element was exactly clicked, without having to even bind the listener to that. Corbett says like greedy search, sort of, yes. So if I do a click here and I click, let's say on this price, see what happens. It says cart list right now because the time that it logs here, it's always going to be cart list. So if I, let's say, click here, you see cart list. But if I go and debug this, then see what happens. So let's say we do main.js, and then we have this guy here, which is this. So if I click here, let's say on the price, see what happens in the current target. What? It should have actually shown us. Interesting. We should have a target and we should have a current target. Am I mixing those? I believe not. Let's see. So we got click event dot target. Oh, yeah, I'm mixing the current target and target. So the target is the exact one where you clicked, and the current target is where the event is applied. So you see what is the event target? That is the item price. So let's log it actually. So let's log the target here, and then I'm going to refresh and let's see. So I've added an item. Go forward, go to console, click price, see the event target, it's item price. Welcome to Code with S and Last Paradise 5. Welcome, welcome. Similarly, if I click this title, see what happens. We get the title. If I click this number, what happens? We see the quantity element. If I click this plus button, we get the plus button, and we also see the plus click because we have the event bound, but ignore that. Now we have the minus button, so we get the minus, so we can exactly see what is the target. Okay, now I'm going to remove this handler from here, although we could do it, but since I wanted to teach you this event delegation method, that's why I'm going towards the other route. This is how what you see here is how basically React does it behind the scenes as well. So here I'm going to go and then remove that, and now here I'm going to check what is the target, what class does it have. So we're going to check, we're going to say, let's say target equals click event dot target, and then we're going to identify if it's the plus button or the minus button or the delete button, let's say. So here what we will do is that we'll say something like plus button. Let's say for the sake of plus button, we're gonna check if target dot class list dot contains, if it contains fa plus, then we have the case of plus button. So here we have plus button. We're gonna say console dot log here plus clicked. Similarly, we're gonna have another condition, else if, and here we're gonna do the same thing actually. So it's gonna be something like this, and then here we're gonna check if it has a minus clause. So we're gonna say fa minus. When we have this, then we're gonna say minus clicked. So let's try this out now, and if that's not the case, then we're not gonna be doing anything. So if we refresh now, add an item, I'm gonna remove this breakpoint. Let's say if I click here, doesn't happen. If I click minus, you see minus clicked. If I click plus, you see plus clicked. So we are almost there. We already got these elements. Why do we get these elements? If we debug, we should be able to see clearly. If I click minus, this is the target that we get. So we got click event dot target, which is exactly this fa minus. But then we check the class list. This class list essentially is part of the DOM, the document object module, and this essentially shows what are the CSS classes applied to this target element. Now you can see that this is an I element or an I tag, which has two classes, the FAS and FA minus. Here you can also see these values, FAS and FA minus. And then the contains method allows us to pass a value against which it checks if FA plus is inside this class list, which it is, or which is it is not essentially. So it goes forward and checks the second condition. Does this class list contain FA minus? Well, it does. So when it finds it, it goes inside and clicks or uses the minus click. Okay, awesome. So I hope that you get it now. Now, the fun part. When we have the plus clicked, what do we do? Well, we do exactly what we were doing before with this edit item in cart with the increased quantity. So we use the exact same method when we have the plus clicked. But the thing is, now we don't have this existing item here in this context because this is an add events listener and this existing item does not exist. So what we need in order to get this existing item is first the ID of this cart item, and second this existing cart item because this expects a cart item. So what we can do here is that we can go here and see the exact same thing. So I'm gonna copy this one here, and we also need the item ID. So we actually need both of these. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to paste it here on plus click. So we need to find an existing item and we need to pass this into this existing item cart. But the thing is that we don't have this list item now here. So how do you find the list item? We already got this plus button. So if I click this plus, you see that we have this plus button, which is the click event, the target. Now I can go from this plus button to this list item, which is this one, and then find this ID. So what I'm trying to say right now is that we have this plus button which was clicked. I need to go up the DOM, find this item, which is the list item, and then get this ID. That's what I need to do. So in order to do so, what we can do is that we can look at this DOM object, which is target. This essentially has a property which is called parent or parent element. So this element's parent is action right. All right. If I go forward, I should be able to find its parent. So if I go here, I can try to see parent element, which is actions. If I try to find its parent, now this could go on and on and on. So if I go forward, you will see that we get the parent element, which is list group item, which is the exact item that I want. And then I can look at its dataset.id, and here we go. We get the 100 value of the dataset just like this from the DOM object. And this is what we actually want. I actually want to see if there's a way to do this in a better way. So let's see JavaScript find closest parent with class. Because it doesn't matter how many years of experience you have, you can always Google. So it says that we have this closest method that we can use with the selector. So let's try that. So if I go here and I try to find, hey, target.closest, and here I try to find it with the ID of this item, the class of this item, which is cart list group item, I can easily say dot cart list group item, and there we go. We find the item here. Boom. That's what we want. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say here const list item equals target dot closest, and here we're going to use the class. That's how we get the list item. From the list item we get the ID, and we then get the existing item. We don't need the exist because we already know it exists, because that's why we have clicked on the element. So we don't need the exists check here, but we need the existing item. And now we do the same thing. So let's try this out now in action. So I click this and then I click this again. So in that particular case, we should be clicking the plus button. So if I click this, you see that it goes inside the plus logic. Then it tries to find the closest parent for the list item. It gets it. Then it tries to find dataset.id. It gets that as well. Then it tries to go inside and find the item existing with the ID, which it finds and returns the cart item. So you can see we got the related cart item here with the ID, with the price, with the quantity, blah, blah, blah. And now we are saying, hey, take this existing item, go in the edit item cart and increase the quantity. So it will do exactly the same thing as before. So all I need to do is go forward, and boom, exact same functionality that we can trigger now from two sides. All right. One, click here, it increases the value. Second, click here, and it also does the exact same thing. So see, that's why I actually love programming. You find one way of doing things and then you reuse. You don't have to do the same thing again if you're smart enough. So we are doing the same thing, but with sort of a different from a different place, triggered from a different place. All right, enough chit chat. Now let's talk about how do we kind of decrease this quantity. So in order to do so, what I want to do is I'm going to actually remove all this code from here, so we are clear on what we are doing. Now, in this event listener, for the plus button, we have done the logic. For the minus button, we're going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to remove this from here actually and move this above, just like this, because we would want this list item and item ID in both these blocks. So it doesn't make sense to have it here and then also copy paste it here. try to avoid copy paste as much as possible. So here I'm going to take this out from this part, and that's my camera's battery dying. Let me quickly fix that for you. All right, let's go. There goes the battery in, and my face should be available soonish. There we go. All right, so what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna take these out, take forward here, and now what we can do is that we can do some sort of same thing. So we got the list item here, we got the ID here. Now I'm gonna edit the item, but with a different sort of value or action. Actually, this existing item can also go out. So now what we are doing is that for plus, we are just logging plus clicked, and for minus, we are logging minus click. Here, we are going to say decrease quantity. Okay. Now in this decrease quantity case, we need to write some code here for the logic of quantity. So let's say if we have, not capital S. So here, if we have the case where we need to decrease the quantity, we would just, sorry, we're gonna say if this is decrease quantity, then what we need to do is cart item dot quantity minus minus, right? Once we do this, it's easy peasy from here because it's gonna do all the rest from itself. So if I go here, refresh, add one item, add this, minus, boom, everything automatically calculates. Why? Because when we click minus, it does the exact same thing, but just decreases the quantity. So if you try to understand what's happening, if I click minus, it comes here, it goes inside the minus case, which is this one, then it goes inside the edit item cart here, then it checks the value of the action, which is decrease, compares this, goes forward, decreases the quantity from 6 to 5. So now the quantity should be 5, but here you see 6. So here, then it's going to try to find the existing item, which is a DOM item, which is this one. Dimitri Maxim of Galahad, welcome to Code with Asen. Thank you for the follow. Hope you learned quite a lot today. So here in this particular case, the existing HTML has 1206, but the quantity now is 5. So it's going to go inside the render, take the new value of the quantity, which is 5, multiply it with the price, which is 200. So 5 into 200 is 1000. It will also update the quantity from 6 that you see on the screen here to 5. So it now will render the next value. Boom, there we go. So we handled plus and minus. Now let's talk about what should we do when we show delete. Okay, so in that particular case, we just have to handle one thing, and that is that we need to remove that item from the DOM itself. Okay, so what do we need to do when we have delete? So here we're gonna decrease the quantity, and after we can check if the cart item dot quantity is now 0, then we need to do is actually we're gonna find the existing item before that. But if the cart item quantity equals to 0, then we need to do existing item dot remove, and that's all. It removes itself from the DOM completely. All right, and then we are going to move this condition into else. So if it's not 0, then we are going to re-render it, but if it's 0, then we are going to remove it. All right, so let's say I go and do this, click this, click plus, click minus, the value is 1, and if I click minus, boom, there we go, it removed itself. And that's what should happen exactly. So let's say I add this again. Now one more thing that we need to do is that when we add an item to the view, we add that to the cart items array. Similarly, if we remove an item from the view, we also should be removing that from the array. If we don't do so, what would happen? Let's see what happens. So if I add chicken pasta, click minus, it comes here, it will go forward, then it will go inside edit item in cart, then it will decrease the quantity becomes 0, it goes forward, quantity is 0, it removes the element from the view, but the cart list already had sorry, the cart items already has the cart item already. So if I go forward, the item is removed, but it is still in the cart items array. So if I check the cart items, what do you see? You see a cart item. Why? We actually have removed it, but we didn't remove it from the array. So now if I try to add chicken pasta, what do you think would happen? What do you think would happen if I add chicken pasta again? Would it add it? It's not gonna add. Raja says quantity will be 2. Sidban says it's not gonna add. Okay. What do the rest of you folks think? Would it add it to the cart? Would it not add it to the cart? Would it increase its quantity? Would it crash the application? What should happen? What would happen in that case? All right, I think I'm gonna go forward because we have more listeners here than speakers. So if I add this, Raja is actually right, because this cart item already is in the cart, already has a quantity 0, but it will, when it will add it to the cart, you will see that it will be existing cart, but the quantity will be 1. But the thing is, it kind of sets an error. Why does it set an error? The reason for that is that although the cart item can be set, since it's already in the cart items list, what it will do first is try to increase its quantity, which it will succeed in. It will increase the quantity from 0 to 1. But after that, the code says whenever you are adding an item, then first increase its quantity, but then also go in the DOM and try updating it or re-rendering it. Now, where it comes to this particular code, it does not find it on the UI because we have removed it already. So even though if it's the cart, it doesn't exist on the DOM. Since it's not on the DOM or not on the view, this is the exact place where it fails. So we are trying to access something like cart item.index, inner HTML, and then it doesn't set it. So if I click here, see, this is the exact line where it fails, the inner HTML one. So here, when it comes here, the existing item is nothing and it fails. So if I click here again, you see that the cart item does have the quantity. Previously it was from 0 to 1, now it's from 1 to 2, but the existing item does not exist because there's nothing on the UI. What would you update? So that's why it's important whenever we remove an item to also remove it from the array. So we go here in the code, and when we remove this, we also remove this from the array. How do we remove a particular item from the array? Who can tell me? How do I do that? And while you do, I'm just gonna grab a glass of water. So I'm gonna do a 3 minutes break and then I'm gonna come back. Sidban says pop. We cannot pop it because when we remove an item from the array, it could be either of those items, right? If I remove biryani, then it's not pop. We could use splice. That's one answer. But think about it, and I'm gonna be right back. For splice, you would need the index of this item. Just be careful about that. So I'm gonna be right back. Just give me 1 second. I'm gonna be back, and I'm gonna be right back in 3 minutes. All right, I'm back. All right, let's go. Code Brigade says pop. We're gonna see if that's true. Not exactly. Mohammed Ibrahim, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to Code with SN. Welcome, welcome. So we were talking about how do we remove an item from the array. And one of the things is we could either use a splice, or we could essentially use the filter method from the array to filter out the array by removing that one item. So we already have the cart item here. So what we can do is that we can say cart items dot, or we could use the splice method as well, but then we would have to find the index. So instead of using the splice, we would have to do something like cart items equals cart items dot filter, and here we have a function, and in this function what we return here, if that return value is true, then that item stays in the array. If that statement is false, then that item is removed from the array. All right, so what we do here is that we say in this cart items array we have each item, or let's call it, let's say C item. So in this array, for each item we are going to say keep this item if its ID does not match this cart item dot ID. And this cart item here is essentially this particular cart item that we are already working with. So we are saying, hey, check the cart items array and kind of remove every item that is not the same as, or kind of keep every item which is not the same as this current item that we want to remove. So let's try this out and we'll see what happens. One of the things that we need to change is that this cart items, since we are reassigning to this cannot be a const anymore. So we need to change this to a let. So make it let, and then we are going to try to work with this. So let's see what happens. So I'm gonna click here, let's click here, and let's say we go chicken pasta, and then we remove this. In this case, it will come here in the edit with the decrease quantity. So it will go forward, and there you will see that now if I move forward, you can see that in this particular case, what we have is this action is decrease. So it decreases the quantity by 1. So now it's going to be from 1 to 0. And now moving forward, if it's 0, we remove this item from the DOM. And now we are saying, hey, in the cart items array, which only has one item right now, keep all the items which are not having this cart item ID. So what would happen is that this will go inside this whole filter method one by one. So it's going to go here, and then it's checking, hey, the first item has the ID 100. This cart item also has the ID 100. Are they not equal? Well, that's false, because this whole situation will essentially return to false. So we only keep the items which return true in this condition. So since this is false, then the cart items will become empty because we remove the only item that was there. All right, so this is a clear technique, or clearer technique, that we can use for removing items instead of splice. And you will see in production applications, or actually coded by engineers who are working on live applications, that they mostly use this filter method and not splice in the most cases, not even pop in some cases. So here you can see that we use the filter, and now if I try to add the item again, no problem. We can remove it and we can add it. Now tell me, chat, whoever is in the chat right now, what is the one thing that is remaining from this whole use case? Did we need to do anything in the front end that we are missing, specifically around the cart item? Do we need to do anything else that we discussed about? Let's see who was the most attentive in the session. Sid Benis. Yes, the delete icon. So we discussed about this, that when we have this item decreasing the value to 1, then we should be showing the delete icon and not the minus icon. When it's 2 or more, then it's minus, but otherwise it's delete. Now beauty of this is that now that we have this whole situation here, and we also need to show total, yeah, that's accurate. Code Brigade also mentioned that, and also Sidben also mentioned that. So now we have this item here. You see that it's 1, but we don't show the delete icon. How do we do that? First, let's try to find that icon. So if we say delete, you will find that there's an icon that is called trash. So we can use the trash icon, which is this one. And what we do in that particular case is that we just need to use, instead of fa minus, we need to use the fa trash. And the beauty of this structure that we have right now is that we just need to replace this based on the quantity. Fishy, thank you for the follow. Fishy. And welcome to Code with SN, and hope you learn a lot. The videos that we are doing here are going to be available for later within the streams as well on Twitch, and also potentially will be uploaded to YouTube as well. Back to the topic. This minus icon should become a delete icon when we have this quantity as 1, because then when we press this button, it should be removing the whole cart item instead of decreasing the quantity. So, and it's just like what we have here. So if it's positive or more than 2, sorry, more than or equal to 2, then we show minus, otherwise we show delete icon. Do you do rapid JSON stuff? No, I don't know what that is. I'm gonna look into it, and if I found it interesting, then sure, we can do that if that's something you're interested in. So with the fa minus, we can actually put a condition here, just like this, if I can put things correctly. So here we can put a condition: if the quantity is 1, then we should be using a delete icon, otherwise the minus icon. So we can say something like, if this dot quantity is greater than 1, then use fa minus, otherwise use fa trash. And once we save this, you will see that once we add an item, boom, we got the delete icon. All right, now if I click plus, what would happen? We would see the minus icon here. If I press minus, what would happen? The quantity would change to 1, and when we re-render this, we see the delete icon. Code Brigade says ternary operator. Yes, we are using the ternary operator here, and we are checking if this condition is true. So you could put this in a bracket, and then if this evaluates to true, then we do this. Otherwise, this is an else, we do this. So if the quantity is greater than 1, then we use the minus sign, otherwise we use the trash sign. Okay, so that's what's happening. And now, since this is coded beautifully, you can see that now if I add any items, and if I add the same item multiple times, you will see that it only shows the delete icon when the quantity is less than when the quantity is 1. Now this comes with a problem. Did you notice that problem? The problem with that is that now you will see that here, if I click this delete button, it doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Can anyone tell me? Specifically those of you who have been watching the stream since the beginning. Ambiguously cryptic, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to Code with SN. Code Brigade, there should be a section in my YouTube channel. If you go to my channel, go into videos or playlists, and there should be a playlist that is called past live streams. You should be able to see past live streams there, and if they're not there, then they might be in the process of being uploaded. All right, no one is telling me why this delete button doesn't work, so I'm gonna tell this to you. All right, Raja told us that we are not getting this working because the event or the class that we bound the click handler to was actually this fa minus and not fa delete. So all we need to do is to do the same thing. What we should be doing here is that we should be essentially just changing this to delete. Now I'm gonna make this a bit better in terms of code, and that is because, first of all, when we have this condition here where we have either the target contains fa plus, if you see the cart item action, we had 3 different actions: one, increase quantity, decrease quantity, and then delete item. So far we are not using the delete one, so let's use that properly. Hey Mant, hey, how's it going? Welcome to Code with SN. So what we are going to do here is that first we're going to see, hey, this is fa plus, all right, do this. No, if it's fa minus, do this. Else we're going to have another condition here, just like this. And then here we're going to say fa trash. And in this case, we're going to say delete clicked, and we are going to use the delete item value here. Now in the edit item cart, instead of having this logic here, we can actually bind this to the delete operator itself. So here we could do something like, or we don't actually need to do anything here. We can just check if the action is delete, then we are going to remove this as well. So let's quickly move this here. Then we're gonna kind of do this here, and actually let's try to get this existing item in the beginning. Existing item is here. Then first we are going to check, hey, if the action is delete. So we are going to say action equals cart item actions dot delete item. If that's the case, then do all this. So I'm going to remove this from here. Else if we need to increase quantity or decrease quantity, then we do all the magic. So let me clean this up for you. And we got another follower that is Sudlo or Sudlo, if I can pronounce it right. Where can I get your Instagram handle? You can get my Instagram handle or all my bio links right here. It's https bio.link/muhdsnias. So you can find all of the links at this particular bio link. Good evening, Sudlo. How's it going? So we cleaned up the code, and now the logic goes like, hey, we need to edit an item, but how are we editing an item? Are we deleting that item? If that's the case, then we just need to do existing item.remove, do this. Otherwise, we check, hey, should we increase the quantity or decrease the quantity? And then we do the other stuff, okay? One of the things that you will notice is that in this if condition, even if it goes all through this line of code will still be evaluated. So we don't actually want that. We want this to happen if we are increasing or decreasing. We don't want this to end at delete item. So what we can do here is that we can just put a return here. That's one way of doing this. Another way of doing this would be to put it in two places, just like this. So now we do this only when either of these are true, or we would have to have another else condition that kind of looks dirty. So I'm not gonna do that. All right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do this return here, and then even I'm gonna remove this if, because when you have a return statement inside an if, you don't need an else if in that case. So now the code looks like, hey, if the action is delete item, then we do all this and we return from here, which means none of this will be executed. If it's not that, then we do the rest of the stuff and all the magic. I also removed one line of code that I missed, so I'm gonna copy this now and now paste this right here. So now this is what we have, and now let's test this. Let's test this out. I'm starting to mumble because it has been more than 2 hours. So let's say if we refresh this, add this item, and click this delete button, let's see what happens. So first of all, it's gonna come under this click handler. So if I click delete, it's gonna come under here. Then it will check, hey, is this the fa trash one? Which it is. So it's gonna go here and inside this else if. Then it's gonna go into edit item in cart function with this delete action with the existing item, which is chicken pasta that you can see here. Then it would go inside here. And now since it's inside here, it's gonna go forward, find the existing item in the UI, which is this existing item. We can see that it's working. Then it's gonna check, hey, is the action delete? And yes, it is. So it's gonna go ahead and remove the existing item. It will also clear out the cart items array that we have. So the array then becomes an empty array, and then it returns. So none of this code will be executed. So you will see that as soon as I go forward, this comes out of the function, and that is what we needed, right? So that's how you would implement this whole situation. And now all we need to do is just use this, just calculate this total. So we're gonna do that real quick. Just give me 1 second. Cool, awesome. So now that we have this information, let's try Just give me one more second. I'm just trying to see something. All right, cool. Let's try to find this total here. So in order to do that, we need to have some sort of calculation of this whole total, and we also need to render it whenever we do some change in the code. All right, so let's try to do that real quick. So what we'll do here is that, let's see. Just give me 1 second. I'm going to be right back. I'm going to be right back in a minute. All right, back. Apologies for that. All right, so we were talking about maintaining a total for this whole cart. So what we can do is that we already have this whole array where we have all the cart items. All we need to do is just calculate the total of this of the cart. All right. One of the things that you see is that we have this parse float happening right here in the code where we show the price. So where we show this price, you see that here, whenever we do this thing here, you can see that it sort of shows the total value, but in actual this cart item price, if we have a look at the code, you see that this item price or cart item price is doing this logic here, this calculation here. So why don't we move this into a function that we can use also for the cart total? So I'm going to create a function here, a method here for this cart item, and that would be calculate total. And this calculate total essentially would return the value just like this. So I'm going to use this calculate total right here as well. And this function is going to be used for the cart total as well. And I'm just doing this because I don't want to do the same thing for the total as well. So what I will do is that I'll just loop through all of the cart items, call the total function or calculate total function for each of those, and then combine the total and show that on the UI. All right. So first, we need to create a function that allows us to update this value here, which is hard coded right now. So first of all, we're going to go into the code, and in the HTML we have this price. What we are going to use is, we're going to use a span here, and we are going to give this span an ID. We're going to call this cart total. This is the ID of this span, and here we are going to pass a value or kind of have a value here. Let's create a function that updates this value. So here, after this class, the cart item, and in fact just about here after the cart items, I'm going to create a function that will call update total. That's the name of the function, and this function's job is to update this HTML, this particular HTML, and put a value in that. So what it will do is that it'll do const cart total element, and here we're going to do a document dot query selector, and here we're going to use the ID cart total just like this, and then we're going to say something like cart total element dot text content equals something, let's say 1000. All right. So when we do this, we can call this function anytime and then just do this. So let's have a look at the code. So here, if I do something like update total, you will see that the total right now here is empty. And if I click here, you see the value is changed, right? So we have a function to update the total right now. This function should also take a value, let's say, and it updates that total on the UI. That could be one of the things, but this function could also calculate the total itself. So what would have, I'm just thinking about it. Maybe we need to have another function that calculates the whole total, or we could just have this function that updates the total and also calculates it. Let's say we call it const recalculate cart total, and this function essentially does the job. So let's say This function is supposed to do the calculation and also then to call this update total function with a value. Let's say this calls this with 1,000, and this is what we set. Let's say here total value, and then we set this total value here just like this, and then we call update total with 1,000. So if I now calculate or say recalculate cart total and then call it, you will see that it assigns the value 1,000 here. But if I just do something like update total, then if I do 20,000, then it updates the UI as well. So recalculate total does not need a number, it recalculates it and uses this function inside. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to call this recalculate cart total every time we update or add an item. So here, whenever we click a menu item, that means that we are adding this item to the cart, or we are editing an item to the cart. So at the very end, I'm going to just call this function. All right. Similarly, whenever we edit an item using this click handler, then I'm also going to call this function and do whatever we talked about. So instead of actually recalculate total here, I can move it in add item to cart just here, and I can also move it inside edit item in cart, but then I would have to do I'm thinking now, what is the best place to move this? Maybe just move it here. Yeah, let's move it here, and then also let's move it I don't want to put it in these three places, you know. I don't want to do that. Bachir Theob says hello. How's it going? How are you doing? I'm thinking actually. I want the best code reusability I can get actually, you know. So I could do this, and then I could do also that. In that case, I'm putting that into two places. But then, all right, let's do this. Let's call this from on menu item click. Let's call it from here. So that's for sure. Now in the edit item cart, I need to also call it from whenever we click the menu. So let's do this. Yeah, there is a way to do this, but I don't want to do that. So let's do some copy pasting. That's fine. You're not going to judge me, right? Don't judge me for now. Let's say we recalculate the total right here, or we could put it right after here as well. That is also the problem with putting it here. There's that Bachir Diop, if I'm pronouncing your name right, is that we only want to do this when either of these conditions match. We don't want to do this if it doesn't. So we can't put it here. We have to put it in these cases, because there could be a case where we clicked on something else and kind of reached here, and that was neither the plus button, the minus, or the trash. So we only need to do that here. So let's say if I click here, you see calculate total is not defined, and that is because where do we have mentioned calculate total? Calculate total. Where do we have that? Oh, we have this one here. Oh, we're using here. We need to use this dot calculate total here. In the class card item, we need to use this dot calculate total, otherwise this won't work. Makes sense. So if I click here, you see that the total is updated to 1,000. Similarly, it would recalculate it anytime we add or update something. So if I go to recalculate total here, if I say console.log, you will see that recalculating. So if I save this, refresh this, click this one, you say recalculating. If I add an item or add the quantity, you see you don't see recalculating. Why? Because we haven't saved it. Oh, I have missed one place where I haven't used recalculate total, and that is when we click plus. Let's see here. So here we have plus. For plus, we are using recalculate total. For minus, we are using it. For trash, we are using it. Now this is the problem with code duplication. You have to find it every time you fix it. But I'm gonna fix it in a better way later on. Since we are out of time, I'm trying to wrap this up. So we click chicken pasta, we see recalculating. We click plus, we see recalculating. We click minus, we see recalculating. We delete item, we see recalculating. So all of this is working perfectly fine. Now let's talk about what this recalculate total does. What this should be doing is that this should go through this cart items and then calculate all of the total sum and then show that sum here with the update total. Now I could do this via the for loop, which would be something like this. I would just have, let's say, a variable. So we could say total, and here we could say 0. And then we could say something like cart items dot for each. So we are going to look at each cart item. Let's say we say cart item, and then we do something like, hey, const item total equals cart items dot, and here I could say something like get total. What was the function name here? This is called calculate total. All right. So here, or actually let's say get total. I'm going to replace this here as well. This dot get total. And here as well, when we are calculating, we are going to say get total. And then we get that inside this item total. And then we add this value to the total. So we say total plus equals to item total. And finally, we just use this total variable here. So we call it cart total actually, and then do something like this. Now let's debug this and see if this works. So here, if I refresh, click 200, what do you see here? 200, boom, this is working perfectly fine. Bashir Job says, put it inside edit card item since it's called 3 different places. Yes, but the thing is that if I call that within the the edit item, then I would have to put it in 2 places. One is this delete scenario, and then the other one is this scenario where we have this. So I cannot put it at one place. That's what I was talking about. We would still be using at 2 places, but I think it's still better than using at 3 places. So you're probably right. Let's go there and change this something like this. But I still don't like this, to be honest. So then we have this one, recalculate total. Now it's still dirty, but yeah, it's fine. All right, so we click here, we see 200, then we click 200 plus, you see 400, you see that here as well. And we know how it works and why it works, because every time it kind of recalculates everything, it calls the recalculate cart total. So if I go here, 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 then we have this one here. So let's say if I click plus, it kind of does all the magic, comes inside the cart total. And I'm going to answer your query as well, Sidben. So here you can see the cart total here is 0. Then for each item, it goes inside. So we only have one item, chicken pasta. So it will go inside. Then it will get the item total, which is right now, if you see the cart item, the price is 200, the quantity is 3. So this should return 600. And now it adds that 600 to item cart total, which is in total 600. And now finally this 600 goes here. Let's say we add another item for biryani. Then in that case, it calculates recalculate total. It goes inside. Then it goes for these 2 items, which is chicken pasta and biryani. Then it goes first for the chicken pasta. The total is 600 as before. It adds that to cart total. Then it comes for biryani, gets the total, which is right now 387. So it adds 387 to 600, which becomes 987. And here you see the value, and then the total, which is 600 here, becomes 987. Boom. All right. Now I think this makes sense for you. If I increase the amount, you see the total being increased. If I decrease the amount, you see the total being decreased. If I delete an item, you will see the amount recalculated as well. So everything here is working. But I would like for you to see also another way of calculating this whole value, which is the reduce method. So what we do here is that instead of running this for loop, we can use the reduce method on the array for calculating the sum. So here I could say something like this. Instead of this whole mumbo jumbo, we could say something like const cart total equals, and I would potentially put these two things for you so you can decide what you want. So I could say something like const cart total. Here I could say something like cart items dot reduce, and the reduce essentially takes a method and an initial value. So this is the method and this is the initial value, which is 0. So here we got it. Now this function or this method essentially gets two things. One is the accumulated value and then the next value. So the first time it starts with 0, so the accumulator is 0. Then the next item is exactly the cart item. So here what would happen is that we could say something like, or we could say something like existing total, or we could say total here, or we could say cart item here. So what we want to do is that we want to just return the total plus cart item dot get total. Once we do this, you will see that every time it comes, it calculates the whole total and then uses that. So let's try this out. So I'm gonna refresh. I'm gonna first add this item. So you see the value 200 is right here. Now let's try adding another item. So let's say we add this dal chawal here. So once we do that, you see that it comes here. It runs a reduce on this array. Then it starts with this value 0 as the first value. So it goes inside, we have this total set to 0, and we get the first cart item, which is this one. It returns back the value of total plus the new total from this cart item get total. Then it comes back for the next item. So the first item is chicken pasta, as you can see here, with the value 200. Then it comes for dal chawal. So if I go forward, you will see that now we have the total set to 200 because of this chicken pasta. And now we are getting the next item, which is dal chawal, and we are kind of calculating its price. Once we do that, then the total is finally received and it is set here, which is 300. So 200 plus 100 is 300. Now this is the method of using reduce with arrays. All right, so you can experiment with that. You can add values to this one, you can remove from this one as well, and that's how it goes. So now that we are done with all of the things, I cannot recall that there's anything left, to be honest. We got this card completely accurate. We got the code as well. I'm gonna just put it here to do. This stays here for the beginners who are not familiar with reduce. Okay. So this code will essentially do the same thing, and this code essentially does the same thing. This is more advanced. This is sort of basic at the moment. And the rest of the code I think is pretty much good. I don't need this plus click method. We can remove this. We do have some console logs. For instance, this edit cart item. I don't want that. There are also some other logs as well. For instance, here, this should be item does exist in the cart already. We do have some other logs as well. Plus click, minus click, blah, blah, blah. We can probably remove this as well. So I'm going to remove that. And I think we are good. We do have a really good code that we can work with. So I'm going to commit this code. And in the meantime, I'm going to have a quick look at my Twitch. And if you're okay with that, I'm going to just run a really quick ad. And in the meantime, I'm going to try to push this code. And then we are going to say goodbyes to everyone. So let's do that. I'm going to start an ad break and I'm going to push the code in the meantime. So let's do that. All right, I'm back and I saw a message that says, I just love the clarity of the code. I hope I can write code like this. Of course you will. You're part of the amazing community and you are awesome already. So definitely you're gonna be writing this sort of code in no time. All right, I think we're done. I pushed the code as well, and I think I'm gonna see you this Saturday. I'm 100% not sure what we're gonna be talking about on Saturday, but I'll plan something out. We might be able to do some live projects. We might be able to take the beginners to next level, or we might be discussing something new. We might also be looking into CSS for styling as well. But we'll see. I'm gonna think about it and then I'll share that with you. If you have any ideas, if you have any requests, do share them within the Discord channel that we have. If you have not joined the Discord, you can see the information on either my profile, or you could also see that in the Twitch channel as well. So thank you everyone for joining today, and I love talking to you. I love building all this amazing stuff. I'm really happy that we are working as a community, and I'm gonna see you on Saturday. Till then, happy coding. Do we have covered all the basic concepts of beginners? We actually have. We have covered a lot of things, including loops. We have covered the conditionals. We have covered the DOM manipulation as well. There could be other topics that I can think of in the meantime until Saturday. So I'm gonna look into those as well. But I think you have a pretty good idea when it comes to basic JavaScript and HTML. If you want to learn OOP, I could also show. I could also share OOP as well. The only thing is that we are not 100% sure how much that how much that is used within the industries. So people rarely use that with JavaScript. But I could talk about that. Let's talk about OOP. I'm gonna see about OOP as well, and I'm gonna kind of plan it out how to best deliver that as well. But yeah, let's talk about OOP, but in an interesting way. We do things with a kick, so we do it in a particular way. So we're gonna do that. But yeah, I got a rush. It's only 18 minutes left until the shop closes, so I gotta bring some groceries. Thank you so much, everyone, joining, and I'm gonna see you later. Thanks. Bye. Bye, and Allah Hafiz as well. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot one thing that I wanted to share. There is a way to raid on some people. If you're still here, then I would suggest that we do that, and that really helps different streamers get some traction. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just look at whoever is streaming, let's say software development. If anyone is, you're gonna raid them. Just look at what they're doing as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, it's not rocket science. I would just like to support other people as well. So if you're still watching, I would recommend just watching their channel. So let's say software and game development. I'm gonna see if anyone is live and streaming something. All right, DevOps today. This guy Wims. Horn tram cutting down trees. Let's see. Maybe we could event bubbling and delegation खालिस उर्दू में बता दें. I will share it with you for sure. I'll create a video in Urdu and will share it with you, Arsalan. No problem. I'm just seeing who we can raid today. RS school. Can I search JavaScript? Can I search JavaScript and see if anyone is streaming JavaScript right now? but he's not streaming in English. Let's see.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's just one of those things that's funny. It's
I'm gonna remove
much
my
more
audio.
common than you'd expect.
No problem.
Yeah, it's just funny. So you're over. It's over.
All right, looks like he's building something. He is definitely using HTML.
Let's do the GitHub thing real quick, just to be sure.
All right, I think we can go there, right? I think we can rate this person. So maybe do this.
Etc. reported. Oh.
How do I rate? I should be able to see this account and then rate it from my chat. Let's do that. Raid Griffin. Let's do that. And say hi. Let them know that we are from the Code with SN community. Just give them some
so
love.
We got something to do over on.
And just see what they're doing, and then I think we can take it from there.
To knock out.
Let's see if they get a notification. This channel is intended for mature audiences. Interesting. Does it give you any indication that you
no worries, Jesse.
we are about to rate them?
Alright, so this value here.
And did I miss anything? No? Maybe no?
Based on what we're showing there.
Alright, it only ends when we are rating or we are alright, it only works when we end this stream. So I'm gonna end this stream and then you can go there. Awesome. Then I'll see you later. Thank you everyone. Allah Hafiz. Bye bye. And we'll see you later.